Well, I'm going to take you in a little bit different direction. I'm afraid I'm not an artist. I'm afraid I don't have any drawings to share. But I am going to talk about brands and branding, and I'm going to try to do something that we've had a mix of, but I haven't seen quite brought together yet at this conference, which is I'm going to share some theory about something we call people brands. I'll tell you what that is and why it matters in a minute. And then I'm going to share a case that tries with a brand I think you'll all be familiar with to show the importance of this work and to show the importance of doing something we call branding from the inside. So let me start with a little bit about us to put us into context. So Evviva, it means hooray in Italian. We are the brand shop for people brands. We specialize in branding service organizations. Service organizations. Landor said, famously, service brands are the hardest kinds of brands to brand. The reason's pretty straightforward. If I'm making pencils, then at the end of the day, if I get the pencil manufacturer right, I can manufacture hundreds of thousands or millions of these, and each of you will have the same experience of the pencil. If I've done a good job, the pencil is the brand, the product's the brand. But when we talk about service brands, the challenge is you don't own the brand. The brand is co-created between your customer and the service provider at every point of contact. So creating brand consistency and brand clarity, creating a brand story that an organization can embrace, that a customer can come to expect, it's quite challenging, and it's a focus of our business. We've had the opportunity to work with a lot of really good organizations, many global, many widely distributed MNCs, some of them here. But the important parts of the story I want to tell you have two components. One is our firm is in a number of locations. You can see we have an office here in India, in Bangalore. My colleague Nihar heads that up. We have offices across the US and in the UK, but that's not the important thing. This is the important thing. We've conducted market research, and I mean real market research, boots on the ground ethnography, walking around, talking to people, but also watching what they do, carefully recording it and learning from people around the world. Every market you see in dark blue here is a market that we've spent extensive time studying. And that ties back to a theme we've heard a lot about over the last few days, which is, well, to some extent, brands are homogeneous. When we think of Nike, when we think of the Nike swoosh, there's a name and a symbol that's the same everywhere. But people are heterogeneous. So finding the right balance between the homogeneity of a brand and the heterogeneity of all the cultures in this room on that map, it's a big challenge. So let's talk a little bit about what we talk about when we talk about people brands. I'm going to talk about this in an Indian context in a minute, because I think you're the last audience in the world I need to tell this to, but to the Western audiences I speak to, you're among the most confusing places on earth. There is so much to India. There's so much Indianness, and there's so many different flavors, cultures, languages, foods, points of origin that to an outsider like me, the most amazing thing sometimes is that you all are prepared to call yourself one place by one name, to share an outsider language like English to help draw you together. I mean, India is a political system, it's cricket, it's a few big brands, and then it's an enormous amount of plurality, right? So for me, this image sums up a lot of what's unique and vibrant and different about India and makes people brands so challenging. So let me give you a little bit of context about people brands. I spoke earlier about product brands like the pencil brand and service brands as being distinct. Let's take that a little bit farther and look at them. You could say broadly that what delineates these two brands from each other is under the master brand umbrella. A product brand is where the product is what you're ultimately purchasing. The service brand is one in which the people are the product. You may not purchase them, they may facilitate your experience, but the people being the product is essential. So, for example,